Selamat datang ke ASM Podcast yang dibawakan khas oleh Akademi Sains Malaysia. Siri podcast ini merupakan platform perkongsian topik-topik berkaitan sains, teknologi, inovasi dan ekonomi STIE secara santai dan mudah difahami. Setiap episod akan menampilkan jaringan pakar ASM yang akan berkongsi pengalaman dan pendapat mereka tentang STIE seiring dengan etos ASM. Budayakan sains, raikan teknologi, cetuskan inovasi.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mazlan Othman, and welcome to the fourth episode of our ASEAN Foresight podcast. In today's episode, we focus on International Data Protection Day, an annual occasion observed on January 28th, as designated by the Council of Europe. On this occasion, various entities such as governments, parliaments, national data protection bodies, and other stakeholders engage in initiatives to promote awareness regarding the individual's rights to personal data protection and privacy. In 2019, the ASEAN Foresight Alliance, and I will refer to it as AFA from now on, was established with the goal of fostering connections between ASEAN and global foresight initiatives. Operating under the AFA umbrella, the Academy of Sciences Malaysia, and I will refer to it as ASM from now on, is actively engaged in producing the ASEAN Science, Technology and Innovation Ecosystem Foresight 2035. This report will explore worldwide megatrends and their potential impacts on science, technology, and innovation in the ASEAN region. The central idea here is the necessity for ASEAN nations to collaborate in order to collectively address these trends for the mutual benefit of the entire community. In line with the objective, ASM is hosting a series of podcasts and webinars to delve into the intricacies of establishing and managing the STI ecosystem. So we have a wonderful guest today, and our guest today is Dr. Emma Schleiger, a multi-disciplinary research scientist from the Commonwealth Scientific and Industrial Research Organization, and I'm sure you know this, CSIRO, Data 61 in Australia. CSIRO Data 61 is the data and digital specialist arm of Australia's National Science Agency. CSIRO houses one of the most extensive reservoirs of research and development in the global landscape of artificial intelligence, or what we know as AI, and data science. Dr. Schleiger earned her PhD in clinical neuroscience from the University of Queensland. In recent years, her focus has been on the human impact of digital technologies, with a specific emphasis on the responsible utilization and advancement of artificial intelligence. Emma's research extends to human digital interactions and the collaborative opportunities between humans and AI to generate value. She played a key role in co-authoring a discussion paper that contributed to the formulation of Australia's AI ethics principles, providing guidance to businesses and governments in the ethical design, development, and implementation of AI. Additionally, she brings expertise in applying strategic foresight methodologies to shape future policy and strategic discussions. Emma's work in this capacity explores diverse domains, including the future of healthcare, transport, energy, agriculture, and emerging technologies. So that is who Dr. Schleiger, I can call you Emma, right?
You can.
Yes, yeah. And thank you for making the time today to be with us virtually to discuss issues relevant to the International Data Protection Day. As we have mentioned before, Emma, you are a neuroscientist. So as a neuroscientist, you transitioned into becoming a research scientist, focusing on the human impact of digital technologies and AI. So what was that motivation for that transition?
Um, I think that basically halfway through my PhD, I realized that a traditional academic career focusing on one subject and getting narrower and narrower wasn't for me. Coming out of that PhD, I just thought, I want to look at everything else in the, it's just shown me, it's given me all the research skills, and I want to explore all of the things in science. I don't want to be streamlined and get more and more specific. I want to see everything. And so I didn't know exactly what I would do. So I did some research ethics for a little while, and then this opportunity came up to join CSIRO, and they were doing this discussion paper that the government had asked them to do on how we can build and develop and design AI in a ethical way to make sure that it's responsible. And that seemed like a fantastic opportunity, and I'm thankful for my previous supervisor who sort of gave me the chance to run with that. We did a lot of consultation with the domain experts across AI. So it gave me a real opportunity to sort of see what was out there, what all these people were doing, and to play that role as a multidisciplinary scientist to do that kind of work. I think in terms of bringing my background research into AI, there's so many links between neuroscience and AI, from like deep learning and neural networks and all of those inspirations that have come from the way our brains work to the way we can make our artificial intelligence work. And there's a lot of exciting things happening, but I guess the way I use my background is to come into a really complex place with a lot of gray areas, not a lot of black and white, and sort of use that as an opportunity to learn and bring that humanistic approach in how these technologies are going to impact us as humans and how we can impact them and build them in the way that we want to.
Yes. So what are the potential applications and implications of this synergy, Emma?
I think that all science basically benefits from that multidisciplinary point of view, and bringing those perspectives in, especially with AI, because it's got it's such a huge domain, and it's going to touch, if not already is, touching all fields of the way we work and the way we live and the way we interact with each other. So I think that bringing in people that are agnostic to AI in the beginning brings these different perspectives. Particularly though, so my neuroscience research was very specific. It was looking at the people who have just had a stroke and they were in hospital, and I was using EEG to help predict their cognitive outcomes and some potential emotional outcomes, because people with stroke weren't able to communicate and do traditional testing. We thought, putting them up to an EEG, it's cheap, it's movable, all of these things. So that's what I mean about getting very specific into one field of neuroscience. I thought, this is so interesting. I love this, but I love all science and I want to learn more about everything. So I don't think that I brought anything particularly from my research over, but I think that the applications between neuroscience and AI are there, and they're fascinating.
So you co-authored, I believe, a paper that informed Australia's AI ethics principles. So could you elaborate on what those key principles are, and how do you then use these principles to address the responsible development and use of AI?
Sure. So there's like 100+ ethics principles that have been outlined by organizations and governments around the world. And 8 principles that came out of our discussion framework and a public consultation are pretty widely accepted and repeated across all of those. So the first one involves our human, societal, and environmental well-being. So the AI should benefit individual, society, and the environment. That it has human-centered values. So they should respect our human rights, our diversity, and the autonomy of individuals.
Yes.
Fairness, so where AI systems should be designed in an inclusive and accessible way. So they shouldn't be discriminating against individuals, communities, or groups. There's principles around privacy, protection, and security, which is apropos to today's focus. So all AI systems should respect and uphold privacy rights and data protection and ensure security of our data. They should be reliable and safe and operate in accordance with their intended purposes. That they're transparent and explainable. So we know when AI is being used and we can explain the reason why it's made some certain decision or action. That there should be some sort of contestability. So when an AI significantly impacts someone or a community group or the environment, there should be a process that allows people to challenge the outcomes of that decision. And finally, accountability. So that's just making sure that the people who are designing and implementing AI systems that impact us all need to have some level of accountability. We need to be able to delve into who was in charge and why they made those decisions to use that AI, essentially. So these sort of high-level principles that we came up with, it's the starting point. I guess as a collective community, we decided that that's where we would start. Hence why there's 100 plus of these that have come out from all different organizations. But it is the starting point, and we need to build on those into more actionable behaviors and norms. I think that since we wrote that discussion paper, I've been working with some colleagues who are ethicists and people who actually design and develop these AI systems. And we've been talking about how the challenges that arise when you try and enact these high-level principles, which a lot of them are implicit. They don't have a specific action you can do to carry them out. So we've been looking at the complexities that arise when you're trying to do that, when you're actually making design decisions, when you're building an AI model. And so we've got a paper out and published around some of those challenges. And then we've got a new paper that we've just written that is about the tensions that actually arise between the ethics principles when you're designing AI. So for example, if you want a highly accurate AI model, you come up against the privacy constraints or even the explainability constraints, because you'll be using deep learning models, and the more you need more data, and you start to have a trade-off essentially with upholding those 3 principles, transparency and accuracy and privacy. They all come up against each other. So you've got to make some trade-off decisions around that. So anyway, we've written this paper recently that highlights some approaches that designers and developers could use to help resolve some of those tensions as they arise.
Going into this issue of ethics and, of course, regulations, I have heard many debates on why AI development should be regulated, and people like Sam Altman was one of very vocal advocates of regulations. And then he was sacked from OpenAI, and then he got back in again. So nobody really knows what was the reason. But why do you think this why do you think this happened? This whole, scenario, what happened? What's your take on that?
I think that it is such a complex space, and it's such a general use technology, that it is incredibly difficult to drill down on what you are talking about, because AI can be so many different things, and some things are incredibly dangerous and some things are incredibly benign, and there's
useful.
useful, incredibly useful, and there's so much complexity in there that making a blanket rule, and really trying to do tangible actions becomes incredibly complex.
Yes.
I think the other sort of impact is that there's so many stakeholders here. You have your legal and privacy professionals, which are they're generally more accepting, and they're behind wanting to regulate and create standards and all of these. And then you have the innovators who would rather like build fast and break things. And then we add in the complexity of different generational values in what young people want and what older people want, the minority groups, the majority. It's just so complicated that it's like asking someone what the best car is. Like, you ask 100 people, you get 100 different answers because it means something different to them. So I think all dialogue is good dialogue, and to keep talking about it and putting forward why you think what you think is the best idea. We're obviously not there yet, and I think we'll probably talk about it in more detail, but when you look at different regions in the world, their appetite for regulation is very different.
Quite different, yes. And then there's this dark underworld. They're going to, do what they want anyhow. So, it's going to be quite exciting. But, I've always, a lot of my scientist friends fear AI. But somehow I believe good nature will prevail. And that AI
I'm on the same page.
good.
I think that we have
good, and you're a neuroscientist, so you must have reason to think why there's nature at the base of it. We are good people. I think that will prevail. Yes. Anyway, let's go on to the next questions. I'm supposed to ask you if there are particular examples how this, human digital interactions should be influencing policies or industry practices.
Yeah, I think that it's like that social license to operate. So where we have this growing societal pressure for organizations to ensure that their AI is being deployed and designed in responsible ways. But I think that there's a lot of confusion across the spectrum, because you've got the executive levels down to the designers and even the consumers of technology, and what responsible looks like to them is different. So we have all those frameworks, and some regions have standards and regulations, and these tend to be tailored to the appetite that the region has for those. So when we look at real world examples, we could look at Europe, which I think probably have the most regulation. They've got that GDPR, they've got the AI Act coming into effect in the next few years, where innovators are saying this is too restrictive, we don't like it. Maybe I haven't seen a lot of the public debate, but I know that the government or the EU feels more comfortable having these sort of regulations in place. But there's still this, even with that appetite and that that commitment to be proactive in what they're doing, there's still pushback. When we compare it to places like America or China, they've kind of falling on the other end of the spectrum, where that appetite for regulation isn't there. They're innovators, they want to build things and they want the freedom to build things. And I guess they're probably more of the mind that we are looking out saying, well, people will do the right thing and we should let them get on with it and do it and not hamper them too much. And I think the reality probably sits somewhere in the middle of those things.
Yes, yes, yes.
So we can think of examples. I think it was around 2020 when like the big three, like Microsoft, Amazon, and IBM, all said within a few days of each other that they weren't going to be selling their facial recognition technology to governments or police,
Yes,
because there wasn't sufficient legislation to prevent mass surveillance and other damaging uses of it. We see in the media, a lot of media said that they didn't actually do what they said they were going to. They're still selling and using these facial recognition systems for different purposes. But I think it was a good example of the industry putting their money where their mouth was, saying that, well, we have these principles, we want to adhere to them, we want to create responsible AI. This is an area where we don't see enough legislation, we don't know how it's going to be used, so we're not going to participate until there is legislation that we're comfortable with. And just to add to that, I think that with the interest in AI ethics and responsible innovation, there's the potential for it's like ethics washing. It's like greenwashing, where companies latch on to this, consumers want sustainability, and so we will sell this
everywhere. Yes, yeah.
Yes, we'll sell this as environmentally friendly. We'll sell this as ethical AI without actually doing much homework in what that might look like. It's a value proposition. They can like whack that onto their sales and look like they're doing something that they're not actually doing. So I think that's something we need to look out for, and there needs to be sort of more education around what that might look like and how we could test the credentials.
Well, you've mentioned some of it, but could you say a little bit more on with the result of this increasing digital technologies, the integration of digital technologies into our lives, this will encroach more and more in our privacy, and the fact that we can be surveilled. What's your view on that? What are the social impacts, both positive and negative?
I think that, we live in a different world now than the one I was born into, and I think most people who have gone past middle age will say the same thing. That's normal. I think you would probably feel the same way. It's a totally different world than what you were born into. And I think in any generation, back through the years, that will be the same thing. It's always jarring when I see my children have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and the way they interact with technology. It's scary how much they watch you.
How scary.
Just how, I guess it highlights how much they're watching what you do. Like before my little baby was 1, he would hold my hand out, he would open my hand and he would put the phone in it so that I could show him things on my phone. He wanted to look at the photos and he would swipe through. Or when my older son was maybe like 1 or 2, I don't tend to use a lot of smart technology just from personal preference, but in the car I do. So when I'm driving, I'll use Siri. I'll say, "Hey Siri, play this song," or whatever. I just made my phone light up by saying that word. And I heard him, he wanted me to play a song, and he was standing at our kitchen bench and he said, "Hey Siri," and I was like, "Geez, you've been listening to me saying, he's cottoned on that. This is what you say," and then the thing plays the song for you. So I just think we didn't have access to any of that technology growing up, and I just think they're inevitably going to be different, and we need to make sure that what we are doing is okay by us as parents and as society and all of those things. And I'm sure I'll say it throughout our conversation a million times, but it's light and dark. There's so many great things that AI can bring and these digital technologies can bring into our world, but it comes with challenges that we need to address head on, and especially privacy and surveillance, is the ability to surveil people and
Yes.
I guess I can't think of the word, but invade their privacy. It
Yes.
grows with the power of AI, essentially. And I think we could all probably do a better job at protecting ourselves. But I think that there's a role for education formally, throughout our schools and universities and our governments, general society, in educating us how we can do that in a way that is accessible. Every time we turn our phones on and download an app or open up a website,
Yeah.
we're signing on to these contracts that none of us are going to read.
No, we don't. Yeah. And some of these apps are so seductive, something has been, existing for a long time, like WhatsApp,
Mm, mm,
I mean, I was listening to, whether it was a podcast, I can't remember now. So how is actually WhatsApp making money? You can't exist as an entity if you're not making money. And of course, they've been bought over by Facebook. And so it's a big question of what is Facebook going to do with WhatsApp? And for now, we couldn't care less. I mean, I'm on WhatsApp, all the time, all day, because I get so much of my information, call meetings, Zoom calls, they're all on my WhatsApp. And I'm still wondering whether I should watch
whether
what
it's wise. Yeah.
WhatsApp is doing. And as I said, they're so seductive. We just don't.
It's convenient. It's easy if you don't think
Very
about
convenient.
it. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
It's a scary reality.
It is, yeah. And that's how, I mean, I think that it is inevitable. And therefore we need to embrace it. And I don't know, maybe I'm too trusting of human nature. I'm sure I will be wrong. I will be proven wrong someday. Okay, now we talked about privacy and with WhatsApp, and Facebook online freedom. But you remember that Cambridge Analytics influenced a lot of the American, the outcome of the American, of the US elections.
Yeah.
There's elections coming up now in a few months. So I don't know how much of Cambridge Analytics kind of thing that has been now, that we have tried to stop them. Do you think that will happen again in the next elections?
I think yes. I think they will. I think that it is happening all over. It is just happening in a more subversive way. That goes so that we don't think about it. So I feel like it's like we talk with WhatsApp and all of those things, where if we were aware of how much of our own personal data we have put out there and how much it can be pieced together, we would be horrified. But it's like that availability heuristic. We don't have that information in front of us. It's a concept. We know it, but until it really impacts us in a data leak or, someone steals our identity, any of those things, or, tries to influence politically, we kind of don't do anything about it from a personal standpoint, because we need that app to function and there's no other better way to do it. So I guess if you're going into it with eyes open and knowing, well, there's a risk here, that's the best that we can do. I know that there's people who are much more privacy oriented than I am, and they won't sign up for these things because they are more cautious than I am. And I think, well, I just want the convenience of the app. But the same way that I don't really want smart speakers in my house, because I don't, it's just something I'm not comfortable with as it stands. So that's something I make for my personal choice. So it has to, I guess we have to be wary that we have personal preferences, and it's like the regions, it reflects with their people. We all have different appetites for that risk versus convenience and access to these things that we want to have access to. But yeah, it's more, I guess, when we're talking about surveillance, it rather than being personally dangerous, that is something that could be targeted to groups when it's used.
Yes, yes.
And those groups are usually already vulnerable or minority, and those risks are bigger than, I mean, it's awful having your bank account hacked into and all of those things, but this is more like systemic um, abuse or racism or targeting, which I think is a bigger society issue. They're not
Yeah.
making any personal decisions
No.
that enables that to happen. It is just a government actor or an organization acting upon them. So for me, that's it's a more interesting and less nuanced. It's just blanket, it's wrong, and the technology provides that capability, which I'm sure that it will be exploited.
Yeah, and as you say, we know, we are aware, we're conscious of these issues, but we go ahead anyway and use all the social media apps, and that's why we are relying on government, right, to make the regulations that would protect us, and that would, we hope, come to happen, and it's happening
Well,
right
I
now.
think even with the ability to do that mass surveillance, you can look at some positives, because I think it was the Indian government did it, and they solved hundreds of missing persons cases in a matter of days using
There you go. Yes.
some surveillance. So the thing that could be dark and horrible, it does have some really great positive stories and applications that come out of it. So yeah, I guess that's where we look at regulation and some sort of an oversight of what you can and what you can't do, and the transparency needs to be there, so that as citizens and society, we can rely on people doing the right thing.
Yeah. So is there any hope that we can maintain ownership and control over our personal information, Emma? Any hope at all?
Not for anyone who is using something for free. So I think that all of those free services, they come at the cost of your data. So I think for some people, they're very driven by protecting that privacy, and they make decisions that are, inconvenient, or they have financial costs and all of those other things. But I think for the general person that uses technology, they've got a lot of data out there that, is being used for all different reasons.
So Emma, tell me, how present are you in the social media? Do you, post all kinds of things on Facebook or Instagram?
I think that I am a user who puts all of the things in place I can to maintain my privacy. So none of it is open to the public. I limit what I put, and I use it as a way to communicate with friends that I don't otherwise see. So I guess I use it with the grain of salt of knowing what I'm putting on there is on the internet forever.
Yeah. No, I don't have a social media presence at all. My daughter set up an Instagram, and set me up on Instagram and Facebook, but I have never posted anything. I mean, whatever people know of me on Facebook is because somebody tags me or something like that. That's the only that I have, and I have no desire at all to be on social media for some reason. But I am very tied to my WhatsApp. As I said, that's whether they're going to tell me through WhatsApp, they told me this morning what time to come, is Emma already in or out,
Yes.
Always through WhatsApp.
I have not used WhatsApp. My mum uses it as well. And I was like, excuse me, I need to have a look at it and see if it will be useful.
Okay, so now coming back to ASEAN, Emma. According to the World Economic Forum, it says ASEAN is the fastest growing internet market in the world, with over 125,000 new users entering the internet daily. So it seems that this presents a lot of challenges related to regional security. I'm not sure I understand what it means. So how come entering the internet challenges regional security? But maybe you can tell us, because we understand you're doing strategic foresight and all that. So how can policymakers in ASEAN address these changes, with this bigger and bigger population now being connected to internet? How do we make sure we put in the right regulations?
Yeah, I think that looking to regulation is one part, but I think one other critical part is the education. So when you're getting this new technology being available to, thousands, millions of people in a short period of time, it's different to the way that countries in the West got exposed to internet. It was this small group of very interested people, and then it got bigger, slowly got bigger until it was, most of the population. But when there's an explosion in one region, I can see that we haven't really seen that before. And what does that look like? And I think, you can use strategic foresight approaches to really dig into what that might look like and what opportunities and challenges that presents. I think there was a discussion around, I say Cambodia. It was a Southeast Asian country, and they have gone from being a totally cash society to cashless with the advent of one app in like 2 or 3 years.
Yes, yeah.
And so that's crazy that could happen.
Yeah,
and
right.
It just shows that, when the people are ready and that like one utility sort of digital technology comes out, people are happy to adopt it, and it goes so differently than the piecemeal sort of, where you have that adoption curve with the like very early adopters, and then it slowly gets up to the Luddites. And it's totally different. And I haven't actually read much on that really fast adoption and how that impacts society. But I think it is fascinating, and I think probably there would be research out there, and this sort of provoked me to look into it, because I think that strategic foresight techniques we could use with scenario planning and trends and all of that would be very interesting.
Yeah, and it's not been a few years since we saw. Yeah, and we should be able to see why it happened and what is the outcome of those things having happened. Like a cashless society. It's unbelievable, as you said, how fast these things take root in society. Maybe there's something. Maybe, and that's why a lot of people fear the impact. So, Emma, are you afraid that AI will dominate the human race? The way Stephen Hawking is, or Elon Musk, and they're so afraid that AI will take over humanity. Are you afraid?
I am not. I think, I come from a balanced perspective, knowing that it can bring such good, but it could, it could bring such evil as well. And my, I guess, positive, maybe optimistic, maybe naive outset is that it will be the same as all things in history. There will be good and there will be bad, and hopefully the good out trumps the bad, and we can mitigate the bad by being informed and proactive. I think that as time has progressed, we've become better as a global society at ensuring that we look after everyone in ways that we weren't able to when humans started colonizing and living in one spot, and we changed anthropologically, I guess, where people really had to fight for their own space and their own things. And I think that, as you know, as centuries have gone by, we've gotten better at looking out for one another. And there's a big social pressure to do that. And I hope that is what the future looks like, is us giving each other a hand up, to ensure that what we're doing is the right thing. But I don't know.
Me too. You're a neuroscientist. There are a billion things happening in our brains at any single second or microsecond, right?
That's right.
And
And
a billion people. Yeah.
We're influenced by all the things that we have experienced in our own life. And maybe that's a reflection that I've had a nice life, is that the world isn't a very, very scary place. I mean, there are awful, horrible things happening. But there's, a lot of really beautiful, great things that are happening as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And yeah, I think maybe even being Australian, coming from Australia, we're quite sheltered from the rest of the world. We're in our own little spot location away from everyone else. So maybe it feels like the world is quite far away for us. I don't know if that influences, but I like to remain optimistic that we are moving in the right direction.
Yes.
I'm not scared. I am cautious. What do they say? Be alert but not alarmed.
Yes. Oh, good. Oh, it's coming from a neuroscientist, So if you have faith in the human nature, which a lot of comes from what's happening in our brains, I am also, like you, optimistic for the human race. Thank you, Emma. Thank you for spending this time with us, and good luck with your work. And we are looking forward to hearing what comes out of CSIRO in the future.
Thank you very much.
That
was a lovely conversation.
Yes, thank you. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.